welcome to my training vlog. I'm a U.S. Navy Senior Chief and a powerlifter, and I just completed my third week of a 6-week shred with RP. This week I want to talk about why I don't use the RP app by itself. Every video leading up to this, you'll have seen screenshots from the Lose It app along with screenshots from RP. So I want to dig into that this week, how I use the app and why I don't use it to its fullest potential, its capabilities, and the app I use instead. But before we do that, I'll talk about my progress this week. This week I had 2 cheat days, one on purpose and one not on purpose. Apart from that, I am down on average a half a pound from last week. I got down to 171.1 this week, and previous weeks everything's been a matter of change, chump change as far as the 171 goes. I have yet to see 170, and God, I am dying to see it. It hasn't happened yet. And just like last week I predicted, effects from the fair started me off higher this past Monday, so I had to overcome that, and then it took a couple days to start to see something lower. So 171.1 was my low for the week. I got really excited about that. I decided to take a measurement on that same day. That was Thursday morning. My measurement compared to week 1, because I didn't measure myself week 2, is down about an inch. I was at 34.5, just under 35 inches, so maybe a little less than an inch on my waist. So we'll say, like, just to be safe, we'll say I lost like 0.7 inches on my waist, which is good because the baseline for where I need to be at is 35.5, and that's where I was at starting week 1. And so this week I am now safely within the single point tape for the US Navy. So step 1 of like feeling better about my BCA accomplished, right? We still want to go farther. I don't want it to be a half inch that saves me. I want an inch, 2 inches. Even more so when I compare myself to previous versions of myself, which is messy. You shouldn't do that. I don't need to look at anybody else to get upset. I just have to look at other versions of me to get upset. Okay, that's how far I got. I've also completed 21 days of a gallon a day. That was good. My cardio this week, I did regular cardio sessions all week, and then I did 1 Orange Theory class, and I did 1 additional bike session. I have an online subscription to this awesome spin instructor. I'll put a link to her profile down in my description in case you want to check her out. Very fun. You don't have to have a Peloton. You don't have to spend a ton of money to have fun on a bike. Anyway, I told myself that would be a leg day thing, that to finish off my leg days real hardcore, I would do my bike. And I did that once this week, and I did 1 Orange Theory when my goal had been to hit Orange Theory twice a week. So a little bit of a womp on that, and even my steps, like my step count this week was lower than last week, and that's something that I've wanted to progress. So I thought I was gonna do better, did not do amazing. So I got something to work on this week. As my change average was only a 0.5, the RP app, wants to cut my carbs. So this is the first time in 3 weeks that the app decides it wants to cut my carbs, which is a better trend than I've had in the past. In the past, like, I'm going up and down the whole time, and the app every week wants to cut me, and that sucks. But this time, my experience with the app, like, maybe because I was being more on point, even with my little cheat bullshits, I'm still more on point than I've ever been. So I'm getting there. I am growing as a dieter, RP dieter. I am accomplishing things still. Anyway, it wants to cut my carbs. So it wanted to cut me below 100 grams a day. I'm not stoked about that. In the app, there's other factors that you can play with. So I agreed to let it cut my carbs, but I went around and decided to up my energy output for the week. And that's something that they always say, like, if you don't want less food, then maybe you need to do more, you exert more energy, you need to move more steps per day, more whatever. And that was already a goal. Now it's just time to pay the man, because if I don't do this, if I don't follow through with increasing my energy output, the app will come around next week and be like, hey, you still suck, so we're gonna cut you, okay? I only took a 5-gram cut to my carbs this week, and in exchange for that, maybe closer to 14 or 15,000 steps a day instead of 10 to 12. That means more serious cardio stuff. The interesting thing is that I mentioned before that I'm on vacation, and I'm still on vacation. In one hand, you're like, oh, well, it's easier to get that cardio because you're on vacation, so you can just go do whatever to go get the cardio. But I already have, like, I wake up, I have a shake, I go to the gym to do cardio, I come home, I eat lunch, I chill. Because I'm on vacation, I work in my little yard, I clean, I take care of different projects with my house that I've been trying to catch up on. And then I go to the gym to lift, either in the garage or at a commercial gym. And there might be a tiny cardio portion associated with that, but then other than that, the last thing for the day to wrap things up is either a walk or a bike session. But that's it. Because my idea of vacation is pretty much a staycation. And I don't really regret that at all, because if I had left the area, then the diet would have been that much more fated to fail. Like, I could have gone home. I really wanted to go home, actually, but it's not good timing. I wanted to go to Lake Tahoe. Again, it's not really great timing. This is kind of my opportunity to do things with my house before my life gets a little more crazy and the unknown decides to reveal itself, which has not happened yet. This is the military. I don't know what's going to happen to me in the next 6 months. And until I do, I have to kind of plan as if multiple things could happen. Long story short, I'm carrying a little bit of stress, and my vacation is a staycation because I'm trying to take care of my house. So I'm not like on an adventure every day. So incorporating more cardio or more steps right now is harder than it seems. When I go back to work in a couple weeks, there's a long walk from the parking lot to the building I'm going to be working in and back. So that will contribute, but it'll also make me grumpier and more tired maybe. And then in the office itself, I'm constantly like running around, like going to hunt people down and talk to people about certain things. So I will get a certain amount of movement from being at work. I don't know that it will help or hurt me with this gradual increase in steps. But yeah, so that's the challenge I face for next week, is increasing how much I move so that I can not decrease my carbs. I am not planning on any cheat days this week. So like this week I had a planned, we went to the movie theater, I had all my snacks that I like, and then 2 days later I had another treat that I wasn't supposed to have. So I don't have another thing planned until July 4th. Overall trending in the right direction, but need to take it a little more seriously considering we're halfway through. So I need to turn it up if I expect to see actual progress. So the topic that I wanted to talk about this week was why you always see screenshots of 2 different apps, at least on my videos. You see screenshots of the Lose It app, and you see screenshots of the RP Diet app, which are totally separate. They're both paid apps. Lose It, you can have a version for free, but the version I have is paid. And then RP is a subscription. $19 a month, maybe? The Lose It app, on the other hand, is like a couple of bucks a month. And there's no coaching or anything with that. It has built-in metrics for losing weight and calorie recommendations, but it's pretty generic. I don't use the Lose It app for that portion. I tell it exactly what macros I want to hit and what calorie limit I want to set, and then we go from there. I track fiber, carbs, protein, and fat. The reason I don't use the RP app for that is because the RP app can be kind of complicated. They've made revisions, and I don't want to badmouth them because obviously I'm a user. And everything they put out is science-backed, and they're real smart folks. They have a real smart app. But the app itself is not, to me, the most user-friendly thing when you're somebody who was used to this other thing for a while. So I've been using the Lose It app since like 2016 to track my calories, track what I'm eating, and keep a log. It took me a long time to learn where my macros should be at. Lose It has been with me on that whole ride, right? I have a huge history, so things that are readily available in my region, in my area, all of those products I already have pretty much entered into the Lose It app. Even if I don't have something entered, the search function has this huge basis of foods. So there's already a history there, right? I'm already used to using that. I'm already used to tracking in that way. The RP app, they set you up based on macros per meal, and then there's sliders for the amount of food that you're gonna consume within that meal. And then it used to be that you couldn't move macros from one meal to the other. I did try to use the app on its own for a little bit when I first started last year. And one thing I didn't like was that like my pre-workout shake, for example, has protein and carbs, but then I'd like to have like a pre-workout snack as well before the gym, something that's gonna give me a little bit more to work off of, so I'm not empty. I don't have an empty stomach per se. So I might have a banana as a snack, or a banana with some nut butter. The nut butter, even the banana and stuff like that, the RP app was registering as having like fat, and for the snack portion, the like pre-workout meal, it wasn't giving me any fat macros to work with. So as soon as I plugged, I could literally not plug in something that had any fat in it. And I know that my total daily macros are whatever, 45 grams of fat. I have these grams of fat to work with. They're not going to be in the other meals. At the time, I could not move from one to the other. And I haven't messed with it, but even though they've changed that, I imagine that even now, unless I made that like a full meal instead of a pre-workout shake, it probably wouldn't let me put any fat in there. I don't know that for sure. I would have to try. So I didn't like, at the time, the inability to move macros between meals. I know they have it set that way because they're telling you what they think the ideal energy expenditure throughout the day is and what it's based on macros, right? My days are not identical like that. They never have been, ever. I generally hit the same meals, but not at the same times. Like, I don't even wake up at the same time right now. You know, when I go to work, it's a little more consistent, but even then, it's kind of dynamic. Things are dynamic in the amount of time I spend in traffic. And they preach that like you don't have to be really rigid to the app. You don't have to be super strict on the app. But why have that then? Like, why is it so difficult to tweak things then? So instead, what I do is I take the total daily macro recommendations from the RP app, and I take the meal adherence ratings from the app. If you don't know what that is, the RP app gives you an overall daily macro split. It recommends a certain number of meals and roughly what time you should be consuming those meals. It allows you to go and rate yourself. You give yourself a grade on every meal, whether or not you met your macros for that meal. Log your weights however many times that you tell it you're gonna track your weight that week. And then it takes all of that and it poops out, you know, your percentage of adherence to the diet. In the past, I've been in the 70s. This diet so far, I want to say I'm at like 86, maybe 85 or 4. And I will describe how I justify that because I'm not doing the meal by meal things very much. So how I am converting the RP app information to Lose It and then back to RP app. So RP says that you met your macro goal for the meal if you're within 5 grams to the left or right. So when I take a look, the overall macros, 45 fat, was 130 carbs, now it's 125 carbs, and The app wants me to have 135 protein, but I am higher than that. I'm at 145 protein, and that's just my personal adjustment. So I look at two things, my macro split, and then when my macros are really off, then I look at the overall caloric split for the day. So the app says I can have X grams of protein. If at the end of day I am where I want to be with protein, more specifically carbs and fat is really what I'm concerned about. So if at the end of the day I'm within 5 grams of carbs on my total daily carbs from what the app said, then I will up check every meal. If I am within 5 grams of what the app said for fat, then I will up check every meal. If I'm where I want to be for protein, then I will up check every meal. If I exceed 5 grams for any of those macros, fat and carbs, then I will down check myself for the meal that I know that I overdid it on. And if I overdid it by a lot, then I'll down check more than one meal, depending on how much. So they say 5 grams, right? Let's say 125 grams of carbs now. If I had 150 grams of carbs, I know I went over by 25 carbs. 5 would be 5 meals that I fucked up on. So that would be 5 meals that I would get to go and dink myself on, which would suck. That'd be a pretty big impact to my compliance rating. The only time I wouldn't do that is if I was really low on fat or something, or really low on protein. Not so much protein because I'm really focused on protein. I'm always hitting my protein. But fat and carbs are where things get a little negotiable. So I'm supposed to have 45 grams of fat as an adult female trying to stay healthy and keep things healthy. So if I was over on carbs but significantly under on fat, the next thing I might look at is total daily calories. And it's not the same, right? How your body uses these fats, and depending on what kind of fat, and how your body uses these carbs, depending on what kind of carbs, obviously it's different. But if I'm trying to figure out, like, no shit, this is how close I was or was not, this is where we get to the real math. Let's say my carbs were over. Let's say I was at 150 carbs, but my fat, I was at 35 fat. Well, fat per gram is 9 calories versus carbs is 4 calories. So if I'm trying to figure out, did I completely screw this day up or not, I will then take how many grams of carbs did I have times the number of calories it's supposed to be, which is 4. I get my number, I get how many fat I had, I add all this stuff up, and I compare it to what the RP app gave me as far as calories for the day. Now I'm within. So I will up check myself for that day, because as far as fat and carbs, I didn't mess up. I was where I was supposed to be for the day. That's how we do this. It's quite a bit of math when I'm trying to go off script, but most of the time it's actually not. I do decent at staying where I'm supposed to be with this amount of carbs. When things get lower, it gets harder and harder for me to have my protein shakes and to meet fiber for the day. Yes, that is how I go from the Lose It app to the RP app, and why I don't use the RP app to its fullest potential. It's just me, because I am used to this other thing. I think this other thing's really easy. I can plan ahead. I like it better. I don't like the fucking sliders. I hate the sliders. Even the Navy has the official PFA app that uses sliders for your scores. I can't stand it. I have this unofficial app that still has all the correct information that somebody else made, and you can just type in the number. I like that so much better. I don't like sliders. They're so annoying. Come on, RP, please. Anyway, so yeah, that's where I'm at. We got to turn it up next week in order to not get cut on carbs again, and we shall see how that goes.